and I started drawing comics. I made up my own creatures, and I made up my own scenarios, and I started to think in a frame, and I started to think, well, I didn't realize it, but I was doing wide shots, and I was doing close-ups, and I was doing reverse angles, and I was doing all the things that a filmmaker does. So I was doing all those things graphically on paper, but it didn't translate to, I want to make movies. So cut 2 years later, I'm very excited to see this new film that's just come out. This is in 1968, called 2001: A Space Odyssey, because I love space, I love science fiction, I'm an avid reader of science fiction, and it looked from the images like it was really a quantum leap in terms of the type of space imagery that I was going to experience. So I went and saw that film, and it had such a visceral impact on me that by the end, I was probably almost alone in the movie theater for some reason. It was a matinee during the day. I stumbled out of the theater, I sat down on the curb, and I threw up. Not because I didn't like the film, but because when the Stargate sequence began, I felt like I was falling down an infinite corridor of light, and I got airsick. I was so subjectively present for that film. And when I see the film now, it's a very hard film to be subjectively present for. It's a very cold and intellectual film, but I loved it visually. And it was the first time I really, at the age of 14, made the connection that a movie can be a piece of art and can be an experience. And it was the first time I noticed film music, because obviously image and music went hand in glove in that film in a really kind of almost unprecedented way. So I started getting really enthusiastic about how did they do that? And I got the book and I read it cover to cover and I understood about a quarter of it. So I read it again and I started making notes and I started thinking about, well, how could I do that? So I got my dad's Super 8 camera and I'd take a sheet of glass and I'd mount a model on it. I'd buy a kit model of one of the spacecraft from the film, and I'd put it together and I'd glue it onto the glass and I'd put a piece of black velvet behind it and I'd put a light on it. And it looked terrible because the model reflected in the glass. Then I thought, well, what if I take the model and put it behind the glass and glue it on from this side and then put like one little tiny piece of detail over where that glue spot is and then light it, and I won't see the reflection. No, all of a sudden with my Super 8 camera, I'm making a spaceship fly through space. Well, I don't think I ever looked back from that point. I always think of it as, the door is going to open for a split second. Whether you choose to jump through it or not, it's not going to be there for very long. Another door will come along sooner or later if you stay at it. When you jump through that door and you say, I'm here, I'm ready to do this, you have to have prepared for that moment for literally years. By being a sponge, by being curious, by absorbing everything that you can to prepare yourself for that moment. I think every filmmaker stands essentially on the shoulders of the filmmakers that went before. We see what they've done, we react to it. It's like, that was interesting. And then we start to create our own aesthetic. And every individual will take what's been done by other filmmakers and filter it through their own lens, their own subjective experience, their own opinions about the world, and it'll come back in a different form. And so it's endlessly renewing and endlessly invigorating. I'm going to talk about, what I've learned. And one of the things I've learned is that you never learn everything, and it's a constant process of learning. So you're constantly humble before the craft, and you're constantly learning. I think the important thing to remember is you can make a great film without a huge budget. I've done low-budget films. I've also done very high-budget films. I've been lucky enough to be able to do that. I can't share what's been learned in a way that can benefit you as an up-and-coming filmmaker, and hopefully then you'll go ahead and you'll innovate and you'll do things, and I'll follow your work, see what you've done, and maybe learn from you.